What if I told you that your addiction is not a curse, not a stain, not a failure, but a language, a secret form of communication, a private channel through which God speaks only to the ones capable of hearing him? That idea alone shakes everything we've been taught. Because for generations, people have believed addiction is simply weakness, a flaw in your character, a sign that you're broken. But I discovered something completely different. So different, so unsettling, that most religions would never dare to accept it. Addiction, in its rawest form, is not simply human fragility. It is the whisper of a higher force trying to awaken something buried deep inside your soul. Most people see addiction as punishment, but I saw it as dialogue. A spiritual conversation happening beneath the surface of your life. The endless cravings, the obsession you can't explain, the guilt that crushes you, the cycle of falling and rising again. None of that is random. None of it is meaningless. It is how God communicates with those he intends to transform. Every addiction carries a message, a hidden code meant only for those strong enough to confront it. Alcohol, lust, ambition, pain, control. These aren't accidents or random temptations. They're symbols, indicators of a deeper hunger inside you, a hunger your soul has been trying to express long before your mind could understand it. And here's the truth that shakes people to their core. Only those marked by divine purpose experience this hunger so intensely. Have you ever felt trapped by your own desires, yet unable to let them go? That paradox, wanting to escape while craving it at the same time, is the proof. Because what I realized is this: the more you fight what you crave, the further you drift from what it's trying to teach you. Addiction is not here to destroy you. It's here to reveal you. God speaks through the storm of your compulsions, through those urges you don't understand, through the silence after every relapse when you don't recognize yourself anymore. Because that is the precise moment he begins reshaping you. So before you condemn yourself, before you declare your addiction the enemy, stop and listen. Stop and it might be the most personal conversation you've ever had with God, one that can only be heard by souls chosen to awaken. There is a hunger inside you that nothing seems to satisfy. You try to fill it with substances, with people, with achievements, with distractions. But no matter how much you consume, the emptiness returns every time. Stronger, deeper, hungrier. I call this the spiritual thirst. Every addiction begins as a search for something sacred, something lost, something your soul remembers, even if your mind does not. When you reach for that bottle, that behavior, that substance, you're not just being weak. You're responding to a call you don't yet understand. Your soul is screaming for meaning, and addiction becomes the only language it knows how to speak. This thirst is ancient. It's existed since the earliest humans walked the earth. But not everyone feels it with the same intensity. Only certain souls, sensitive, restless, spiritually marked, carry this burden. These are the ones I call the chosen. People who cannot settle for an ordinary life because something deep inside them refuses to let them rest. Most people can drink without becoming alcoholics. Most people can experience pleasure without losing themselves to it. But you can't. And that is not weakness. That is your sign. The thirst that never goes away is evidence that something greater is trying to reach you, trying to pull you toward a transformation. You keep resisting. I discovered that alcoholics in particular often carried a unique spiritual wound. Their addiction wasn't about alcohol. It was about a desperate attempt to connect with something transcendent, something beyond the smallness of everyday life. They weren't drinking to escape reality. They were drinking to feel alive in a world that felt too empty, too hollow, too devoid of magic. But here's the paradox. The addiction itself becomes the barrier. The very thing you use to quench your thirst becomes the thing that keeps you thirsty. You drink to feel whole, but the drinking fractures you further. You chase the high to escape the pain, but the high deepens the pain. And yet, even this cruel paradox is not random. It is a divine mechanism, a spiritual test engineered specifically for souls strong enough to endure it. God does not speak to everyone through addiction, because not everyone needs this lesson. But for those who do, the message is always the same. What you seek outside yourself can only be found within. You've been trying to satisfy a spiritual need with material solutions, trying to fill a God-shaped hole with things that can never fit. And every time you try, the hole grows larger. The thirst grows deeper, and you feel even more lost. This is where most people surrender. They collapse under the weight of shame and conclude they're cursed, broken, unworthy. But I saw something different. The intensity of your craving is equal to the depth of your calling. The more you suffer, the greater your potential for awakening. The thirst is not punishment, it's preparation. God speaks to his chosen ones through this impossible hunger, because only through it can you learn the most important truth. Nothing in this world will ever be enough. Not success, not love, not pleasure, not validation, not distraction, nothing. And once you truly understand this, not just intellectually, but at the level of the soul, the thirst begins to transform. It stops being about filling yourself and becomes about emptying yourself. It stops being about escape and becomes about encounter. The craving that once pushed you toward destruction becomes a doorway to something deeper, something sacred, something divine. But you cannot reach this point while you're still fighting yourself. You cannot hear the message while drowning in guilt and shame. You must accept the truth. Your addiction is not your enemy. It is your teacher, your guide, the thorn that refuses to let you rest until you face what you've been running from. The thirst will never be quenched by anything outside you. That's the brutal truth. But here's the hope. It was never meant to be. The thirst is the call. The craving is the invitation. And your addiction is the only force powerful enough to push you toward your awakening. Or accept it and begin the process of transformation. The chosen ones are given this burden because they have the capacity to bear it. God does not assign this journey lightly. He knows not everyone can face their shadow and survive. But those marked by addiction are forced into it until they learn to stop running. And when they do, something miraculous happens. The shadow stops being a monster and becomes a guide. When you accept it, when you integrate it, the addiction begins to lose its power. Because addiction only thrives when you are divided against yourself, when one part of you says, stop, and another part says, go. Integration ends that war. Wholeness begins. The bottle promises peace but delivers chaos. The substance offers freedom but brings chains. The behavior guarantees pleasure but produces pain. This is the great deception of addiction. And yet, hidden inside that deception is a truth most people will never discover. What you crave is never what you actually need. You know this. You've felt it. Every time you give in to the craving, there's a moment, maybe a few seconds, where you feel relief, a flicker of comfort, a temporary sense of escape. But it never lasts. Within hours, sometimes minutes, the emptiness returns deeper than before, heavier than before, hungrier than before, and it leaves you right back where you started. Except now you carry the added weight of shame. But here's the part most people never understand. This cycle is not an accident. It is a design. The craving isn't about the substance. It isn't even about pleasure. It's about something missing inside you, something that has been absent for so long, you've forgotten what it feels like. I call this the God-shaped void. Every addiction is a misdirected search for the divine. When you drink, you're not really drinking. You're trying to dissolve the walls between you and something infinite. When you use, you're not chasing a high. You're trying to escape the limits of your own consciousness. When you engage in destructive behaviors, you're not seeking pleasure. You're trying to feel alive in a world that has made you numb. I saw this pattern in every addict I encountered. They weren't morally weak. They weren't broken by nature. They were spiritually starved. They were seeking God in all the wrong places because nobody ever showed them where to look. Their addiction became both the problem and the pointer, both the wound and the map, both the pain and the calling. The tragedy is that you can drink an ocean and still be thirsty. You can chase every high on earth and still feel empty. You can repeat the same behavior 1,000 times and still feel disconnected. Because you cannot satisfy an infinite hunger with finite solutions. But the fact that nothing satisfies you, that is the clue. That is God whispering through your dissatisfaction, telling you that you were made for something deeper, something higher, something that exists beyond the ordinary. Your inability to be content with shallow pleasures is not a flaw. It is evidence of your extraordinary calling. Most people settle for comfort. They numb themselves with routine. They distract themselves with entertainment. They accept a life that never asks difficult questions. But not you. You cannot settle. You cannot numb yourself. You cannot ignore the hunger. You were chosen for depth, not convenience. For transformation, not indulgence. For awakening, not sleep. And your addiction, destructive as it is, was the alarm clock, the wake-up call, the force powerful enough to push you inward. The shift happens when you stop trying to satisfy the craving and start trying to understand it. Ask yourself, what am I really reaching for? Peace, connection, meaning, escape, love, relief? And then ask the deeper question, where can I actually find that? This is when addiction stops being your master and becomes your teacher. The craving becomes a signal, alerting you to the wounds you haven't healed, the needs you've neglected, the truths you've avoided. And slowly, you begin to see the difference between the surface desire and the soul-level need beneath it. The bottle is not what you need. The drug is not what you need. The behavior is not what you need. But the craving itself. The craving shows you exactly where to look. When you finally give yourself what you actually need, when you feed your soul instead of your addiction, something begins to shift. The craving doesn't vanish immediately, but it loses its desperation. It loses its power. Because the only thing addiction ever wanted was your attention. There is a wound inside you that never fully closes. You've tried everything to make it disappear, numbing it, ignoring it, covering it with achievements and relationships. But no matter what you do, it remains raw, open, quietly bleeding beneath the surface of your life. Most people think this wound is a failure, a flaw, a punishment. But I learned something different. Some wounds are sacred. They are not mistakes. They are markers. They are placed deliberately on the souls chosen for a specific purpose. I call this the sacred wound. Everyone experiences pain, but only a few have pain that becomes part of their identity. Pain that shapes every choice, every relationship, every moment of self-destruction. This is not random. This is not meaningless. Your sacred wound is your initiation, and your addiction is what forces you to keep returning to it, facing it, learning from it, whether you want to or not. Most people think healing means the wound disappears, but true healing is different. True healing is when you transform your relationship to the wound, when you stop seeing it as weakness and begin seeing it as your strength. The wound becomes sacred when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because the deepest wounds create the deepest empathy. The wounds you carry become the very source of your compassion, the very place where grace enters your life. Every time the wound opens, it reveals another truth, another layer of purpose, another part of the person you're becoming. It is teaching you how to understand others, how to sit with people in their pain, how to empathize in ways the unbroken never can. You were wounded in the exact way required for your calling. You were broken in the exact way that would later allow you to heal others. The wound that won't close is not your curse. It is your training. Your addiction has been protecting you from the full weight of that wound. It became a shield, a buffer, a temporary escape from pain you weren't yet strong enough to face. And maybe it was necessary. Maybe you needed the addiction to survive the earlier chapters of your story. But what once protected you eventually imprisons you. The very thing that helped you survive becomes the very thing that keeps you from living. And when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of changing, that's when the transformation begins. You approach the wound differently, not with hatred, but with curiosity. Not demanding it disappear, but asking what it has to teach you. Not trying to close it, but learning how to walk with it. And in that shift, everything changes. The wound doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It becomes less about suffering and more about purpose, less about what was done to you, and more about what you can give to others. The wound becomes the crack where the light gets in, the broken place where grace flows, the doorway through which others will one day find healing because of you. Only those who have descended into their own darkness can guide others out of theirs. Only those who have carried unbearable pain can help others carry theirs. Only those who have lived with a sacred wound can teach others that brokenness is not the end, but the beginning of rebirth. So now you stand here, at the threshold of understanding, looking back at everything the fire has revealed. The thirst that couldn't be quenched was teaching you that nothing in this world will ever be enough. The falling that felt like failure was preparing you for transformation. The shadow that terrified you was waiting to become your guide. The craving that consumed you was pointing towards something sacred. The wound that refused to heal became the opening through which your light now shines. Your addiction was never the enemy. It was the messenger. You were chosen not for comfort, but for transformation. Not for ease, but for depth. Not for an ordinary life, but for a path that would forge you into something unbreakable. Every moment of suffering, every relapse, every shame-filled morning, every desperate prayer, it was all preparation. You were being trained in the darkness, so you could carry light into places where others cannot go. The conversation is not over. God is still speaking, through your struggles, through your questions, through every moment of awakening. But now you can finally hear Him. Not in the noise of your addiction, but in the stillness that follows your surrender. Not in the high, but in the hunger the high could never satisfy. Not in the escape, but in your courageous return to yourself, again and again. No matter how many times you fall, you are awake now, and that changes everything.